Today I am going to take up sonnet number 66 of Shakespeare, Tired with All These. Now I'm going to explain it quatrain wise. Like all the sonnets, you have got 3 quatrains here and a couplet. So taking up the first quatrain, before I start with the quatrains, if you have anything to know about Shakespeare or Shakespearean sonnets, you can refer to the previous videos in which there is information about him and the sonnets. So taking up the first quatrain, tired with all these, for restful death I cry, as to behold desert a beggar born, and needy nothing trimmed in jollity, and purest faith unhappily forsworn. Now, tired with all these, the poet is tired with a lot of things. What is he tired of? He is tired of the injustice that he is seeing all around him. He is tired of the injustice that is being meted out to him. Now, because he is tired, what does he do? He wants death. Death has been given the adjective of restful, meaning death provides rest from all these kinds of injustices that he sees around him. For restful death I cry, as to behold desert a beggar born. Now, first of all, you can see the alliteration here, the repetition of the B sounds. Behold, beggar, born. B, 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 which I have put in blue so that you can understand the alliteration there. As to behold desert a beggar born, which means that he sees people who have got talents in them, people who are deserving. They are leading a life of beggarliness, of poverty, and needy nothing trimmed in jollity. People who don't need anything because they already have everything, they are trimmed in jollity, meaning they are dressed in fancy clothes. They have all the trims, all the luxuries of life they have been given. And this is what? It's an example of social injustice. That people who are deserving, they are leading a life of poverty. People who already have a lot and they don't need anything, they are leading a life of great luxury. So an example of social injustice. And purest faith unhappily forsworn. People are taking vows, sacred vows. People are breaking those vows without having any kind of moral compunctions, which is an example of what? Religious injustice. That you take vows, when you take vows, you are supposed to keep your vows, but then people are breaking their vows. So we find in this first quatrain, there's an example of social injustice, because someone who is needy, needs nothing, has jolly trimmings, meaning he has got everything. He has got fine clothes, he is feeling very pleased with himself, and the alliteration of needy nothing emphasizes the focus of the injustice. That he needs nothing, yet he has everything. And purest faith unhappily forsworn is an example of, as I said, religious injustice. That faith is renounced and disavowed. The alliteration of faith with forsworn, see, repetition of FF sounds, again binds the victim to the injustice of it all. Taking the second quatrain, and gilded honor shamefully misplaced, and maiden virtue rudely strumpeted, and right perfection wrongfully disgraced, and strength by limping sway disabled. Now, gilded honor shamefully misplaced. Again, an example of social injustice. Gilded honor, like the trimmings of the needy, nothing has it all. People who don't deserve honor, they have everything. This is shamefully misplaced by those who claim to have honor. In a fair world, things would be correctly placed. But in the world Shakespeare is tiring of, they are shamefully misplaced. People who do not deserve to be honored are getting all the honor. The undeserving have it, and the virtuous do not have it. And maiden virtue rudely strumpeted. Moral injustice. See the example of moral injustice here. The virtuous maiden has been brought to the streets. ugliness perverts beauty. This is another despairing characteristic of moral injustice that the great observer Shakespeare sees in the world that he lives in, and he is tiring of it. And right perfection wrongfully disgraced. Again, moral injustice. Good, true, righteous people, like the maiden, are wrongfully disgraced by this world, and strength by limping, swayed, disabled. People who are doing the right thing are being compelled by the people who are in power, and strength by limping, sway refers to what? Power. Strength by limping, sway, disabled means, the important word here is sway, as used extensively in poetry, means power, governing authority or state power. Here it is limping, sway, meaning corrupt government, or at least corrupt authority. Strength is disabled by this debilitating corrupt authority. Something that should be good or in good condition is, instead of being in a good condition, disabled. Political injustice that the author looks upon with despair, and without the position, authority, or means to set it right. He is in a state of utter despondency to see all this injustice around him. Third quatrain. An art made tongue-tied by authority, and folly, doctor-like, controlling skill, and simple truth, miscalled simplicity, and captive good, attending captain ill. An art made tongue-tied by authority. He says art is something which is of profound interest to the poet. Now, this theme of art being compelled to keep quiet has been repeated in many of his previous sonnets also, and in later sonnets also. Like in Me Tongue-Tied, he uses this phrase in sonnet number 80, My Tongue-Tied Muse in 85, My Tongue-Tied Patience in sonnet 140. The only person in Shakespeare's world who ever gets tongue-tied is Shakespeare himself. He is frustrated by his own art being tongue-tied by authority. He is compelled to keep quiet. A personal example of corrupt authority disabling strength and interfering with his own work. An example of artistic injustice. And folly, doctor-like, controlling skill. Folly means what? Foolishness. Foolishness with artificial clinical precision, trying to show that it knows everything like a doctor. Controlling skill. Real art is controlled by what? Foolishness. The lunatics have taken over the asylum. It's almost as bad as that. The fools are in control. The skilled are being not allowed to show their skills. And another example of social injustice. And simple truth, miscalled simplicity. Simple, plain, honest truth is disparagingly called simplicity. It's just simplicity. And captive good, attending captain ill. Now these lines have been called very brilliant. Why? Because there are just 6 words if you see, and it presents a wonderful image of good versus bad. Goodness is trapped, made captive by who? By captain ill. That is not only despicable in its own right, but it is a captain, a person of authority. Now see again, the person of authority is not a king or queen, not an absolute powerful person, but just a captain, someone who can get high enough to exercise authority and abuse it before he is found out. So it's captive good being captured. Captive good. Good has been made captive by who? Captain ill, the wicked person. Captive good could well be perceived to be the decent author himself, and captain ill a person of higher social position, yet of little worth. Again, an example of what? Moral, not moral, but social injustice. Final couplet we come to, where he comes to a conclusion. Tired with all these, from these would I be gone, save that to die I leave my love alone. He says that, now we look, line 1 starts with the word tired, and again the final couplet starts with tired. So if you see the first word of the first quatrain, the word is tired, and the first word in the couplet also is tired. Line 1 starts with tired with all these, and the couplet starts with tired with all these, and there's been plenty in between to tell us why the poet is so tired. So you have a repetition of tired with in the beginning, tired with in the end also. Save that to die I leave my love alone. He wants to be gone. He wants to leave everything and go, because there are so many types of injustice around him. Social injustice, moral injustice, artistic injustice, religious injustice. He wants to leave it and go, but he cannot leave it and go. Why? Because what matters most to him is not the honor with the trimmings. He does not need anything else. He is a man of simple truth. A man who doesn't suffer fools gladly, whatever gilded honor they may try to give to him. He is a man who values honesty, beauty, and most of all, his love, who keeps him going despite all the corruption and injustices he observes in the world. And a love who he couldn't possibly think of leaving alone, at the mercy of all the ugliness that's present in the world. And that is why he says, I cannot go. In spite of everything, all the ugliness around him, he cannot leave his friend and go. Why? Because obviously that would mean exposing his friend to a world in which nothing seems right. Now, the imagery in this sonnet is so rich that critics have said that it is almost a playlet, not really a sonnet. Now, here you have the modern text of the sonnet, and it is for helping you to understand the poem. Now, if you have got any questions on sonnet number 66, you may ask it in the place provided below, and I will answer it to the best of my ability. Thank you.